All right, let's jump right in. Now, you've probably heard two names over and over again when we talk about the Quran, Muhammad and Ahmed. And, we often use them interchangeably, right? But what if they're not synonyms at all? What if, inside the very architecture of the Quran, they mean two totally different things? One, a vessel, and the other, its function.
And that really gets to the heart of what we're exploring today. When the Quran uses these names, are we reading a biography about a person, a prophet? Or are we looking at the blueprints for a protocol, a kind of spiritual operating system? Let's dig into the logic our source material presents.
So here's the central claim, laid out plain and simple. In the Quran's own framework, Muhammad is the name for the purified vessel, the perfectly prepared receiver for the message. Ahmad, on the other hand, well, that's the name for the activated function, the execution of that message in the world. They're like two sides of the same operational coin.
Now, to really grasp this duality, we first have to tackle a really fundamental idea, this concept of the prophet being unlettered. And this isn't about biography or education level. It's about a structural necessity for revelation itself.
The Qur'an itself gives us this term al-ummiyya. For centuries, the common interpretation has been pretty straightforward. It just means unable to read or write. But what if it's something way, way more profound than that?
Yeah, this is a total reframe. Al-ummiyya isn't about a lack of intelligence. It's about an intentional emptiness. It's a state of being a clean slate, of having no inherited theology, no priest whispering in your ear, no preloaded cultural baggage. According to this model, this is the absolute prerequisite for receiving a pure signal.
And check this out. This verse really drives the point home. You did not know what the book was, nor faith. See? It reinforces this idea that there were no preloaded frameworks. The vessel, the receiver, had to be empty of all the human-made systems of faith in Scripture before the divine message could come through without any distortion.
So it all boils down to this fundamental operational law. It's a non-negotiable principle in the system. For revelation to come through pure and intact, the receiver cannot already be filled up with human-based ideas of authority. The channel just has to be clear.
And this state of emptiness, it isn't just a passive thing. It's actually the result of an active, irreversible process. It's a sequence of purification. And as we're about to see, the order of operations here is absolutely critical and can't be changed.
The sequence is always this. First, purification. The vessel is cleaned out, emptied of all the noise and distortion. Only then, step 2, reception. The message can be received cleanly. And only after that clean reception can you get to step 3, manifestation, where the message is expressed without corruption. You cannot shuffle this order.
And here's exactly why that order is so crucial. If you try to acquire knowledge before the vessel is purified, this model argues you get one thing every single time: distortion. The message gets bent and refracted through your ego, your culture, your assumptions. But when you do it in the right order, purification first, you get clarity.
This completely reframes the famous story of the cave, doesn't it? It wasn't just some symbolic spiritual retreat. According to this view, it was a functional, almost technical step. It was about achieving total signal isolation, literally sealing off the ears from social noise, the eyes from the clutter of history, to create that perfectly clean, empty channel for revelation to come through.
Okay, so the vessel is purified, the message is received. Now what? Well, now we get to the pivot point. According to the source, there is one single verse in the Quran that acts like a system-wide switch, changing the entire mode from just describing things to actually doing things.
And that verse is 19:12.
O Yahya, take the book with strength. Now, within this framework, this isn't just a command to one prophet, it's a system-wide instruction. It activates a totally new phase. It's the moment the message shifts from something you just read and learn about to something you hold and you execute. This one little command performs 3 massive structural changes. First, agency and power are no longer based on who your parents were, your lineage. It's based on who holds the book. Second, authority shifts from a physical person in a specific time to the timeless knowledge inside the book. And most importantly, the whole system flips from describing truth to executing truth. So now, with that switch flipped, we can finally define Ahmed. He's not just another name for the vessel, for Muhammad. Ahmed is the name of the protocol that runs in this new, activated execution state. So let's look at this system state. The source uses 2 really key terms here, Rahman and Rahīm. In this model, before verse 1912, the Quran is mainly defining the nature of truth. This is the domain of Rahman, which is seen as this vast field of potential. But after 1912, the focus snaps to how that truth gets executed, and that becomes the domain of Rahīm, the active plane of action. The source uses this incredible analogy to describe it, a dual caustic geometry. It sounds complex, but let's break it down. Think of Rahman as the pure, unbending light from a projector, the book's command. Then there's this other term, Razim. That's all the noise, the distortion from our collective ego, our agendas. It's what bends the light. And finally, Rahīm is the screen, the plane where the action happens and we see the final outcome. Ahmad, then, is the name for the function that operates on that screen, trying to execute the pure command of Rahman while dealing with all the interference from Razim.
And you can actually see this shift happening right in the text. The source points out that after Surah 19, the descriptions of the messenger become all about function, not biography. Roles like being a witness, a warner, a mercy, an illuminating lamp. See, those aren't personal character traits, they are execution roles. These are the Ahmad functions in action.
So let's bring this all home. This entire model shifts our focus away from a person's biography and toward understanding a system, an architecture, a final protocol for action.
And this just sums up the core mechanism perfectly. It's like a law of physics for revelation. You fill the vessel with the world, with your own ego, your own culture, your assumptions, and the Qur'an's message refracts. It gets distorted. But if you empty the vessel of the world, the Qur'an just pours right in, completely intact and pure.
So we come full circle, back to where we started, but now with hopefully a lot more clarity. Muhammad is the name for the purified receiver, the unlettered condition perfectly met. Ahmed is the name for the activated execution, the protocol that runs after that 1912 switch gets flipped. One makes the other possible. The balance holds.
And that leads to maybe the most powerful line from the source material, which really sums the whole thing up. This isn't being presented as just a matter of belief or a new theology. It's being presented as the inherent architecture of the book itself.
And so we're left with this final, really provocative thought, one that turns this entire system from a historical analysis into a deeply personal question. If this is a live architecture, not just theology, well, what does it mean for you to hold the book? And what happens when that execution switch at 1912 is still waiting to be flipped inside of you?